The Porsche Cayenne GTS, the final piece in the model lineup. Now, it's not the fastest or most powerful, but because it's that final piece, technically this is the ultimate Cayenne. But is it the ultimate Cayenne to drive? Well, let's find out. So welcome to the garage. Subscribe to see the first drives of New Zealand's newest and best cars driven on New Zealand roads in New Zealand conditions. GTS, officially that stands for Gran Turismo Sport. You know, this is pretty unconventional in the automotive world. Usually the last model or version released is the most expensive and fastest or the cheapest and lowest spec, but not for Porsche. This is neither. On paper, the Cayenne GTS has zero braking rights. The GTS Turbo is 30% more powerful and 25% faster. And while I'm at it, at $377,000, that GT Turbo costs nearly 50% more than the GTS. Well, this GTS Coupe starts at $252,400. I know numbers mean a lot when it comes to performance, but they also don't, especially when it comes to driving on real-world conditions on real New Zealand roads. The first clue is the stance. The GTS sits a centimetre lower on adaptive air suspension straight from the Turbo GT. There's also a unique GTS front end with bigger air intakes. And the GTS gets red brake calipers inside those awesome looking 21-inch anthracite grey spider design wheels. The lights also get a dark tint and the exhaust pipes are bronzed. It's all just right, nothing over the top. That's so GTS. The same inside with a GT Sport steering wheel and a race car style Alcantara trim. The GTS also gets Bose surround sound and a panoramic sunroof. Otherwise, it's the all-new Cayenne, and since we drove the S version a few months back, here's that rundown on the new dash. Yes, it's now definitely more Taycan than 911 in here. All the traditional gauges are gone, it's now just a bank of screens. It's a reminder that an all-electric, all-new Cayenne is coming in 2025. But don't fret, internal combustion is not done. In fact, pistons will still power the Cayenne until the end of the decade. I've got to be honest, I actually do like this new dash. I like that you can configure it to your taste. What I'm not sold on is the dash-mounted gear selector. Or am I just being too traditional? And yes, there is an upside with climate control switches taking the place of the gear stick, so no screen searching involved when you get hot under the collar. And speaking of climate control, how's this? Inductive phone charging, but with a twist. The charge bay is cooled, which means it can fast charge without overheating your cell phone. The V8, by the way, is an uprated version of what was in the old Cayenne GTS, which I guess means the new GTS will have even more power. Thank you. It was a pretty easy bet, let's be honest, and it means this GTS now has a shade under 500 horsepower. What a magic number. So too is the acceleration, 0 to 100, 4.4 seconds onto a top speed of 275. Look, and as good as they are, I've got to go back to it. The GTS is not about the numbers. It's about this. And most of it is due to the GTS having a great deal of the chassis and drivetrain from the Turbo GT. The thing is, most of the really cool stuff, well, you can't see it, but trust me, you can feel it. Yeah, there's all sorts of trick gear like the Turbo GT's front axle pivot bearings. Don't worry about what they are. What they do is give you more negative camber on the front wheels. Now, it may not sound or look as cool as those new alloy wheels, but that camber makes this car super agile. It's not like the Cayenne S wasn't impressive the way it went around corners, but the GTS, man oh man. it's at a whole different level. Seriously, an SUV, and not just an SUV this size, an SUV full stop, should not be this sharp. That agility is amplified by 2-valve dampers, there's torque vectoring, and the Porsche dynamic chassis control, which is optimized for on-road performance. Now, of course, we're being very well behaved, I promise. But if we weren't, we'd be fine. You see, the transfer box that sends the power forward and backwards to the all-wheel drive system is straight from that Turbo GT. It's water-cooled. That means it's designed to take lots and lots of punishment. Still on the transmission, that 8-speed Tiptronic, all the shifts have been sped up when you're in Sport or Sport Plus, just to add to the experience. For all the magic of the dynamics, it's the majesty of that V8 that just steals the show. I just can't get enough of it. I mentioned earlier, more powerful. 30 more kilowatts, 40 more newtons. Not a whole lot, but just right. It's how the GTS rolls. It probably says something that the only real performance update available for the GTS is the lightweight package. It takes weight out of the roof, uses a whole lot of carbon fibre, and drops insulation to save 25 kilos. But wouldn't that stop it being a GTS? This isn't built to be a top trumps winner, to be the fastest or most powerful. It's all about being the best, the perfect Cayenne on New Zealand roads. And by default, that makes this the best sporting SUV on any road.